for victims and perpetrators of injustice, for all those who have fallen victim to hatred and inhumanity, for those loved ones who are left behind to mourn, for the souls of those whose hearts are cold, Lord, hear our prayer. For the children who were born into this world of conflict and violence, for women and mothers who suffered needlessly, Lord, hear our prayer. For the healers who found the courage to tell the world their truths about the Battle of Manila, for the children who cried in their beds at night, reliving the horrors of what they had seen done to family and loved ones, for the mothers and fathers who tried to explain the unexplainable, Lord, hear our prayer. For all the children who have died before their time, for the soldiers who allowed their uniform to strip them of their humanity, Lord, hear our prayer. For the redemption of the souls of both victim and perpetrator, for those who commit themselves to the forgiveness of sins, Lord, hear our prayer. Amen.
Chairman Regalado Rosa Jose.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. Once again, we gather in this Plazuela de Santa Isabel, home to that beautiful sculpture by Peter de Guzman that so eloquently speaks of the pain and anguish endured by innocent civilians, killed, some by the savagery of the Japanese soldiers, others by the heavy shelling of the liberating American forces as they came into the city. It is estimated that over 100,000 civilians were killed in the month of February 1945 in the Battle of Manila. Just stop for a moment and focus on that figure. 100,000 in one month. Countless others that survived were witnesses to the cruelty of the Japanese soldiers as they murdered non-combatants, men, women, and children in the last stand for the city of Manila. These soldiers locked hundreds of people in homes in their neighborhoods and set these houses on fire. If anyone was lucky enough to find their way out of that inferno, they were met with bullets and killed anyway. No one was to be spared. The order included a very specific condition, that they use bullets only when necessary when killing the victims, in order to save on ammunition. They cruelly beheaded, bayoneted, and shot unarmed civilians that they encountered. It was a deliberate order to kill anyone that stood in their line of sight, and to look for those who hid and kill them too. Women were rounded up and kept captive in the nearby Bayview Hotel and raped over and over again by drunken soldiers, only to be released a few days after and die in the chaos that was happening outside. Those that survived the horror of the Bayview, had to live haunted by the memories of what they saw, and for many, what was done to them. We remember them, many of whom have no resting place, their bodies left on the streets and eventually buried in hastily dug mass graves. A few weeks ago, an architect friend of mine who does restoration work within Intramuros told me that in the course of doing his work, that often requires excavation, they encounter human remains. I suppose the same is true of the areas of the city that surround Intramuros. This monument was established in 1995 by a group of survivors who themselves lost family members. Some of them, their entire families. And some of them never found their family members' remains and were unable to give them a proper resting place. I won't go through the list of these founders anymore because it's a long list, but their names are etched at the back of the monument if you're interested to know who they are. This year marks 80 years since that battle to liberate the city of Manila. A liberation that cost so many innocent civilians their lives, and for those who survived, a lifetime of having to live with the memory of what they witnessed, what was done to them, and what they lost. Again, the members of Memorare Manila 1945, thank you all for coming today to remember and to pay tribute to those whose lives were cut short in the most horrific of circumstances. We honor them. Thank you.
The liberation of the Philippines was not earned for free. Let us give a moment of silence for those who paid the price of freedom for our motherland. It is for them that the bell tolls.
Filipino and American forces who bitterly fought in the 1960 enemy. From perilous seas, ruined towns, and jungle-clad mountains, they called their way to victory to liberate their motherland. For the women and children tortured and killed in the most atrocious ways, may their harrowing stories never be forgotten and ignored. Justice alone can give them rest. For the living veterans who carry the stories and legacies of bravery and valor, especially of their fallen comrades, since only their heroism of Filipinos, even the smallest of surplus contributions they gave to the motherland, their presence is an honor for all of us.
We will remember those who fell in the night, so we may rise to see the dawn. They gave us life and liberty, as well as the duty to cherish and defend them like they did 80 years ago. In the present, let us work for the peace that our forebears fought and died for.
It is my honor to join you to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Manila, a crucible that forged an unbreakable bond between Americans and Filipinos. 80 years ago, the guns fell silent in Manila, marking the end of a brutal chapter in this city's history. This ceremony reminds us that we must never forget the sacrifices made. During the 3.5 years of Japanese occupation, the Filipino people endured unimaginable hardship. Yet, they did not turn their backs on their American friends. This unwavering loyalty is a powerful testament to the strength of our relationship. While their own families starved, Filipinos risked their lives to send food, medicine, and supplies to American POWs. They formed clandestine networks, providing comfort and hope to the imprisoned. They hid downed American pirates, knowing discovery would mean death. These selfless acts of courage are etched in our shared narrative. We honor all those who stood with us during this dark time at such great personal risk. One such courageous Filipina is Remedios Rene Araizo. Rene, a young woman from Batangas, risked her life repeatedly to smuggle food and medicines to American prisoners held at Los Baños internment camp. She endured interrogations, threats, and even imprisonment, but her determination to help never wavered. Her bravery and that of countless others like her sustained the hope of the prisoners and helped them endure until their eventual liberation. Beyond providing direct aid, Filipinos also fought fiercely alongside American forces. Guerrilla units, often operating with limited resources and facing brutal reprisals against their families, harassed Japanese supply lines, gathered intelligence, and paved the way for the Allied return. Their sacrifices, often unrecorded and unsung, were crucial to the success of the liberation. One example was the story of the Hunters ROTC, a group of young cadets from the Philippine Military Academy who, despite being told to go home to safety, elected to stay and fight. They became one of the most effective guerrilla groups in Luzon, and their bravery in Manila and surrounding areas significantly weakened the Japanese war effort. The liberation of Manila was hard-won. American and Filipino soldiers fought side by side, but victory would not have been possible without the extraordinary courage and support of the Filipino people. They were not bystanders. They were active participants, risking everything. The bonds forged between the United States and the Philippines, uniform and civilian, were the first step in what is now the ironclad U.S.-Philippine alliance. Today, the U.S.-Philippine alliance stands strong, built on mutual respect, shared values, and commitment to peace in the Indo-Pacific. As we face new challenges together, we draw inspiration from our shared legacy of courage, resilience, and friendship. To Memorare Manila 1945, thank you for preserving this vital history. Your work ensures future generations understand the sacrifices and bonds forged during the liberation of Manila. Let us never forget, and let us continue building a future of peace, freedom, and enduring friendship. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much.
The Blessed Battle of Manila 80th Anniversary. The Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines, General Romeo S. Browner Jr. Philippine Army, sends his sincerest apologies for not being able to join us in today's program due to an equally important commitment that requires his presence. Nevertheless, he has tasked me with the privilege of representing him today and delivering his message in his behalf. His message reads, and I quote, "Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Dr. Jose Rizal once said, no history, no self. No history, no self. Our national heroes' words are as relevant today as they were in his time. To understand who we are in the present, we must look back at the challenges and trials that made us one nation and a united people. As we commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Manila, we take a moment to pause and reflect on the past 80 years, especially in the light of where and who we have become. We honor the past and reaffirm our commitment to the future. As we reflect on this monumental anniversary, let us take inspiration from the patriotism and resilience of those who came before us. The Battle of Manila in 1945 marked a definitive milestone in our nation's history. It was a time when our nation endured unimaginable suffering during the dark days of World War II. The destruction of our capital, the loss of 1,000 lives, and the devastation of our communities created scars that continue to live today. Ngunit mula sa kalaliman ng paghihirap na ito, nasaksihan natin ang tunay na lakas ng diwa ng mga Pilipino. Ang ating kapwa Pilipino, babae man o lalaki, ay tumindig laban sa karapitan ng pananakot. Sila ay lumaban hindi para sa sariling kapurihan, kundi para sa kalayaan ng ating bayan. Mula sa dagat, mga bundok at lungsod, ipinakita nila ang tapang, sakripisyo at ang hindi matitinag na paninindigan sa mga prinsipyo ng kalayaan at katarungan. The Battle of Manila, a brutal and heartbreaking chapter, reminds us of the price of freedom, and is a testament to the battle of our soldiers, citizens, and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. As we pay tribute, we not only honor all who fought and died for our nation, but also appeal our steadfast devotion to the very ideals we fought for. Ang Memorare Manila 1945 at iba pang mga organisasyon tulad ninyo ay may mahalagang papel sa pagpapalagana ng mga pangyayari at pangaral ng ating kasaysayan. Ang mga pribadong grupo tulad ng sa inyo ay nagpapaalala sa atin na ang trahedya ng 1945 ay hindi lamang isang pangyayari sa kasaysayan. Ito ay kwento ng mga pamilya, komunidad at mga bayani na ang buhay ay hindi na may pabalik. Tinitiyak nila na hindi malilimutan ng mga susunod na henerasyon ang halaga ng kapayapaan, ang halaga ng kalayaan, at ang sakripisyo ng ating mga ninuno. Maraming salamat, Memorare Manila 1945. On behalf of the men and women of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, I reassure the Filipino people that we are undaunted in fulfilling our duty to defend our freedom and uphold the values for which so many sacrificed their lives. We honor their memory through our duty, service, and dedication to the Filipino people. In the face of adversity, the challenges we encounter today may seem daunting. We continue to confront complex issues regarding our maritime security, particularly in the West Philippine Sea. Yet, just as our forefathers before, we must stand united, guided by the principles of justice and peace. We will continue to assert our rights through local means and international cooperation, with an unwavering commitment to our sovereignty. Tulad ng mga bayaning nag-alay ng kanilang buhay para sa ating kalayaan, ating paigtingin ang ating pagkakaisa at patuloy na magtulungan upang itaguyod ang kasarinlan at kalayaan ng ating bayan. Sa pamamagitan ng pagpapahalaga sa ating kasaysayan, matutulungan natin ang ating bansa na magkaroon ng mas maliwanag na kinabukasan para sa susunod pang henerasyon. Ang Team AFP ay lagi ninyong kasaga at kakampi. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
And his Cultural Counselor Alvaro Garcia Moreno. For the Mexican Embassy, we have the International Economic and Cultural Counselor, my good friend, Marcos Octavio Barra Paco. For the Polish Embassy in Manila, we have the Chargé de Paix, Anna Krejda Danel. And other distinguished guests from the National Museum, Director Jeremy Barnes. From the AFP Museum, we have Dr. Liz Villaseñor of the Philippine Navy and Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Amora of the Philippine Air Force. And last but not the least, our host, Intramuros Administration Attorney Joan Padilla.
As we gather today in Intramuros, we stand united in reflection, honoring the brave souls who gave everything for the cherished freedom that we now enjoy. We remember each and every individual, named and nameless, whose voices were forever silenced, their future shattered
amidst the chaos of war. As we pay tribute to the courageous warriors who stood against injustice, let us also recognize the suffering of the innocent victims who were caught in the horrors of war. Their lives, though taken too soon, are woven into the fabric of our history. Though their sacrifices were not made on the battlefield, their suffering and endurance speak of a resilience no less powerful. In the aftermath of devastation and conflict, the partnerships forged among different nations served as a beacon of hope in fostering peace, unity, camaraderie that bridge cultures and nurture global solidarity. These alliances, born from a shared sacrifice, form the very foundation upon which we can build a future free from the specter of war. As we look upon the remnants of this historic fortress, our beloved Intramuros, we are reminded that our freedom was not handed to us. It was earned through struggle, through resilience, through unwavering hope in the face of adversity, and through mutual cooperation and support of allies who stood by us in our darkest hour. Let us vow to carry their memory in our hearts, not as a symbol of sorrow, but as a guiding light that will lead us towards a future of lasting peace. Let their stories remind us that the strength of a nation lies not in its ability to wage war, but in its ability to prevent it. We offer our deepest gratitude to each one of you for being here today. As we come together in a moment of reflection and remembrance, let this day stand as a living tribute to the unbreakable strength of the Philippine spirit, a spirit that even in the darkest of times remains a beacon of hope, lighting our way towards a future filled with promise, unity, and peace. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay ang Intramuros, mabuhay ang Pilipinas.